Hello everyone, this is Monica from Unique Designs by Monica, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this chemistry set. Now I'm sure there's a lot going on here, but I can assure you that most likely it's like 4 or 5 images and the rest are just duplicate and in different ways and used in different formats. So let's get started. And every single thing that you see here has been done on you just using basic shapes. So let's start with a circle. We're going to be doing one of the beakers, and I'm going to grab myself a square. I'm going to take off the lock and then elongate it into a rectangle. Now you can make it the tube short, you can make it long. It's really all up to you and preference. I'm going to get another square, take the lock off, and make it into a rectangle. Now you can make the opening of the beaker big, small. It's really up to you. I'm going to highlight everything, and I'm going to the align tool and going to the center horizontally. And then once I have that the way I want it, I'm going to weld it. Alright, I'm going to copy this because I'm going to use it for my next image. And I'm going to copy it again because it's also going to be the inside of my beaker. So I'm going to manipulate this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my square and I'm going to have to cover it completely. Now you can have the liquid be all the way down here or up here. For me, I think I'm going to have it right there. I'm going to highlight everything and then slice. That's going to give me the liquid portion. Oh, I wasn't supposed to do that. Let me undo. What I was supposed to do is highlight this, then delete. Alright, I'm going to change the color to these beakers to a light gray. And the contents of here, I'm going to make them pink. Because you can make this into Love Potion number 9 or Halloween. Really up to you. Next, what I'm doing is I'm grabbing a circle and I'm going to be making bubbles. Like the stuff that's in here, it seems pretty active. And I'm going to get different sizes because it's pretty active in here. I'm going to highlight everything and weld it. There you go. Now as you can see, it is pretty big, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it smaller. Now it fits inside my beaker. Now since this is pretty active stuff, I'm going to have tiny bubbles coming from it. And all I'm doing is I'm just placing them in different areas. And what I'm doing is holding my Control C and Control V in order to copy and paste. So in order to make sure everything is flowing coherently, I'm just going to weld everything so it doesn't move. By doing so, I can now highlight this one section and move it over. Now it's not going to go anywhere. Now this is one format of a beaker. The second format is giving it a little base. So let me lift it up just a little bit, grabbing my square, unlocking it, and then making a small little base for it and placing it on the bottom. You want to make sure this is centered, so again I'm going to my line, center horizontally, and weld. Alright, that's in the front, so let me move it back. And then I'm going to change the contents of the colors of the what's inside of it, and I'm going to make it green. That's a little too dark. There we go. So in order for our concoction not to escape, we're going to make a little top to it. So I'm going to grab my polygon tool. I'm going to create a square. And if this fits, I'm going to slice it, but it doesn't. So I'm going to take the unlock, put it from point to point, highlight everything, and slice. There we go. Now we have our cork. And every single time you manipulate something or duplicate it, it'll always go back to lock. Since the opening is pretty small, I'm just going to resize it, change it to brown, and then put it on the top. Let me just resize that a little more. There we go. Now I can duplicate it over here as well. So we have two things already down. All right. Next, we're going to be creating test tubes. And of course, you can't just have test tube lying around. You need something to hold it onto. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a base for my test tubes. And I'm going to unlock my square. And then and the size of your test tubes is really up to you. I'm going to make it about that big. I'm going to use the base of these lines right here so I know where I'm going. I'm going to duplicate that. And then for the top portion where all the beakers are being held, I'm going to just unlock it and make it thin. There we go. I want to make sure that these are aligned correctly. There we go. Now I'm going to have some support beams going up and down. So I'm going to get my square again, unlock it, and then have it go all the way up and all the way down. All I'm doing is copying and paste, doing the same thing. Now I'm going to want to make sure that these two are parallel with one another. So I'm going to go to my align again. And this time I'm going to go center vertically. There we go. And you can highlight everything and then weld. Now we have the basis for our stand. This is where our beakers are actually holding, or the test tubes are holding onto. So what I'm going to do now is get myself a square. And then I'm going to adjust this. I want to make sure I can fit 3 on here. Yep, that seems to be good. So I'm going to do all my testing on this one and creating a circle. Now I'm going to take the lock off this. The main reason is because I want to make sure it fits perfectly well inside. And I also want to elongate it just a little bit. And I can see that this is not all the way to the edge. And then I'm going to just drag it down until both sides are meeting. Let me move it up just a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to weld. Okay, we got the bases of our beaker first. And now let's actually duplicate this. And now let's go for the top. In the very same manner that we did over here, we're just going to give this a little border. And I'm sorry that if you guys can hear me breathing, I have very bad asthma. So I suck at breathing basically. I'm just sucky at breathing. Okay. I'm going to align this center horizontally, and then I'm going to weld. Okay, there we go. We have our test tube, and I'm going to change the color to light gray. Now, anything that you use, what Cricut does is gives you the colors you have already used, so you're not looking all over the place to say which one was it, especially if it was in advance and you chose it at random. There's a little template out here that you can constantly use. So this is the test tube that we're using, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut it a little. We're going to slice this, And let's go that much. Slice. There we go. So this is the liquid that we have, but we want to make sure we can see a little border. I may have made these a little too thin. So let's rectify that. Let's highlight everything, take off the lock, and make these a little thicker. Now, if you're worried that it's not going to fit on here, all you have to do is move this down and elongate this. There we go. That should give us enough room now. So this seems like it's pretty chemically stuff, so let's put a little bit of personality into the goo. And all we're going to do is just add some bubbles, very much like we did up here. Go smaller and smaller. And all I'm going to do is I want to weld these two items together. There we go. Change the color. Let's go with purple since we haven't done that yet. And very much in the same way, since we already got the cork up here, I'm just going to copy and paste. Take off the lock and extend my cork. But you don't have to. I mean, you can leave them like that. You can even make them like as if the chemical is actually escaping, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to group this, and that's our first and our second. Since we don't want to have the same kind of compound in here, let's change the color to yellow. And let's flip this. There we go. Now it's in the opposite direction. So we have two. I mean, we can probably thin this down. The test tubes. I know I made them a little bit bigger, and the only reason for that is so we can see the image a little bit better. So let's do another test tube rack. Just in case you don't like this style of rack, you have an option. So for the most chemist or the most known racks that they use is, I don't remember the name of it, but you're able to use 2 test tubes on each side. I actually have a friend that's a chemist, and if I ask him, I'm sure he'll let me know. It's like, what do you call that stand that you put test tubes on? It's not the rack, it's I can't remember. All right, so we have our base, and now we're going to grab ourselves a circle and a square. Okay, the circle is going to be up here. The square is going to be right there. Let's duplicate this and give ourselves a nice little pole. And before we do anything, we're going to align this horizontally, and now we're going to weld. Okay, now that we have our base, I'm going to take this test tube, make it a little smaller so that it can fit. Let me just move this down so we can see this a little better. There we go. And let's grab this one. Oop, I just got the tube. I really don't need the whole thing. Well, you know what? That's fine. Let's move this horizontally, or I should say flip it. Did I flip it? Now I did. Let's change the colors of these. Ungroup. And let's make this a peach. First, let me weld it, and now I could actually change it into a peachy color. And for this one, let's ungroup, weld it. There we go. And let's make this color a little more light purple. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, and technically all we did is create this, and just 2 stands. So it's not that elaborate or hard how to make these things. So next we're going to be doing a microscope. This one is a little bit more intensive to do, only because it has a little curve in it. So we're going to get a square and make it into a rectangle, just like every these bases are. Okay, I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to make another square, and then make this into a rectangle also. I'm going to create a square. As you can see, it's nothing more than squares and circles that I'm doing. Okay, let me make this nice and small. Right here and right here. Alrighty, next is I'm going to make another square. Make this into a rectangle. Okay, like that. I'm going to highlight everything and then align it horizontally. Okay, everything should look good, and now I'm going to weld. Alrighty. And now I'm going to pivot this like that. And you know what? I'm going to make this just a slightly bigger, just like that. Now, in order to have the little hook here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a heart, and then I'm going to grab another heart, and all I'm doing is positioning this so I can have a little slant. That's all I'm doing. And then I'm going to slice this. There we go. Here is our image that we need. Ooh, I deleted the whole thing. Okay, as you can see, it left me a little bit right here. We can fix that by just creating another shape. It doesn't matter what it is. And all we need to do is just cover it and then slice it again. By doing that, it actually frees this from its other counterpart. So now all we need to do is have a circle at the bottom. Alright. I think that's a little too big and a little too wide. So let's just make it like that. Let's make this in the center, horizontally. There we go. We're going to weld this and move it down just ever so slightly, and then bring this over. Now we need to connect this right here. So technically what we need to do is connect everything. Now you can have this go forward, you can have this go a little further back. It's really your preference. So what I'm going to do is going to weld everything. And now what I'm going to do is create 2 circles. And I'm not going to weld them at all. All I'm just going to do is resize these to fit our microscope. That's a little too small. I'm going to highlight both of these, and I'm going to align them horizontally and vertically. So now it's in the middle, and all I'm doing is going to change the color. That's it. That's all I'm doing. Let's do the center of it. Let's do that white. There we go. Perfect. And we're just moving this over. And there you go. You're done with your microscope. So we got beakers, we have a microscope. Let's make a bowl full of content. So what I'm going to do is have just a bowl, a little circle. Doesn't have to be incredibly big. And now I'm going to slice this. And the way I do that is I'm going to grab a square. You can have it higher or lower depending on the size that you want your bowl. I just ungrouped it or unlocked it, and I'm just going to go past the circle, highlight everything, and slice. Now let's see, which side do I like better? Let me flip this. Okay, which bowl do I like better? I think this one's fine. All right, we have our bowl. Now we need to make it look like there's something in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a circle, and we're going to do this twice, but first let's modify it and take the lock, go from one end and then to the next. Let's just bring it in a little more. There we go. All right, I have it the size that I want. Now what I'm going to do is duplicate this, and I'm going to weld this. Alrighty, so let's make sure that this is a nice white bowl. Our contents inside the bowl will be gray. Let's move this back. There we go. Now this needs to have something in it. Now you can leave it blank, but let's put some content in here. So let's put a bit of goo. All right. So let's just make some random circles, some high, some low, some little, some big. There we go. Let's weld all this. Alrighty. Now we need to make sure that this looks like it's inside the bowl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this and make this go back. And what I want to do is I want this to be my main focus. The good thing is the rest of it is inside my bowl. Now if it should be, I don't know, about this big, say if I'm this big, correct? I will have to duplicate this. Duplicate this. Nope, not that. Because all I really need is this to be proper. I didn't want it to cut it off because it'll make different shapes once I slice it. So let me go back. Let me just tighten this just a little bit like that. And I'm going to slice. All right, this is my content, what I really want. I'm going to change this color to say some chemical purple. Did I change it to purple? No, I did not. All right, now this should fit perfectly fine inside my bowl. Look at that. So it almost looks like a bowl of ice cream actually, which you can turn it into that. And now I'm going to just make sure that there is bubbling coming out of this stuff. So I'm just grabbing some circles. Let's make this a little tinier. And if you want all of these to be the same color, click the main portion of it and weld. There we go. So now we have test tubes, we have a microscope, we have a bowl full of goo, and we need just one more set of beakers, I guess you can probably do. the ones that are more traditional, the ones that you've seen in, mad scientists in the movie, mad scientist Beakers, I guess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a um, square. I just had a little bit of a brain fart there. And then I'm going to grab myself a triangle. I'm going to try to make these two fit from end to end. Okay. I want to make sure that these are right in the middle. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the little flute. Hopefully I said that correctly. Unlock it. Just elongate it a little bit. And again, now I'm doing the top portion of it. There you go. So all I'm doing now is making sure that everything is aligned. Good. Weld. There we go. We have another beaker. Look at that. So let's duplicate this also. And let's make sure that we can have some fluids in here. Alrighty. Just bring that down just a little bit. And slice. Okay. We don't no longer need this. And let's change the color of this to the same silver or gray as everything else. And let's make the contents inside here pink or peach. All right. So let's just unlock this so we can fit it in here. There we go. All right, and very much like right here, we're going to add some bubbles to it. Alrighty. You can make as many bubbles as you want. Alright. Make this a little tinier. There we go. And all I'm doing is highlight everything and weld. There we go. And very much like the top here, let's put a little cork on it so none of the stuff escapes. Now if you don't like it this side, whoa, didn't mean to do that. If you don't like it this size, you can always go a little smaller by unlocking it and just pulling it forward. There we go. And there you have it. A nice little chemistry set that you've created yourself on the Cricut's design space. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. If you want to see new content come out, I post every Saturday and Wednesday. So feel free to hit that subscribe button and click the notification button so you'll be notified when a new video comes out. Click the like button if I haven't said that already. And thank you so much for stopping by. Bye.